We are on Pentonville Road to look at the Castle pub, which was involved in a recent heist, a massive heist in Hatton Garden, which took place in 2015. That was planned by 6 pensioners in their 60s and 70s. A story which to many sounds unbelievable, especially when you hear the circumstances, but it really did happen, and this is where it was planned. So we're going to go inside and have a look at the pub and talk about it in further detail. So the charming staff have turned the music off for us so we can tell this tale. Now, as far as heists go, this was the big one, or a big one. There's been bigger heists, but this was special for a number of reasons. You see, each of the men were career criminals. They had a past in criminality and they were quite good at it. So had they targeted regular jewellery shops or maybe a depot somewhere, they probably would have got away with it. They had the means and the knowledge to do so. So if you was to ask me why they targeted Hatton Garden, in my opinion, it was for criminal prominence. It was basically so the underworld would respect them more. Because in their 60s and 70s, they probably felt, let's go out with a bang, one last big job. And what would have made the job so incredibly special is that unlike the Brinks, Matt and others, there would have been absolutely no manipulation of security and no violence at all. It would have been seamless, in and out, no one would have seen them. The perfect job, the gentleman's job, if you like. But it wasn't to be. And I have to point out that planning a job like that here is somewhat ludicrous, because the bar there is clearly an earshot of us, right? As after a few drinks, anyone sitting there, here, they're going to hear you. And these lads, unfortunately, had a gloating issue, which was part of their downfall. So they planned the job for a few years. And bear in mind, as I said, Hatton Garden is the big one. Saying you've done Hatton Garden means you are the business. It's the top of the CV of criminality. It means other career criminals are going to come to you for advice, basically. They're always going to look up to you. So the idea was to get inside, obviously, and get down to the vault. No one actually knows, apparently no one actually knows how they got inside the building. This could have been an advanced locksmith or something, we don't know. But once they got in, they managed to gain access to the vault via the lift shaft. So they had to block the lift, and they even put a little sign on the lift. They trapped the doors open that said, out of service, just in case someone come along. And this allowed them to get down the lift shaft to access the corridors that would lead them to the vault. Now, after 11 hours of work drilling, they were thwarted by the fact that the safety deposit boxes they were looking to rob was blocking their way. They dug a hole, but at the end of the hole was a safety deposit box, right? So now they're thwarted. All that work, years of planning, and they're just stood there not knowing what to do. So, obviously, they clamber out and go home. But they wasn't really too impressed with the idea of leaving it, especially being so close. And this is where they put their foot in it. Not that they weren't already putting their foot in it by planning it in somewhere like this. So they decided to go back, and they went and got the appropriate equipment. But first, one of them decided to do a recce and drove past in his personal car. And what with the gang's criminality and their connections, when the authorities wound up looking back at that CCTV, it wouldn't have been hard to connect him and the others to the job. So they returned, got down into the vault, scrambled through the hole, got into the actual safety deposit box vault, and opened quite a few. And from what I have researched, they actually could have opened a lot more, It's almost as if they felt we've got enough. And this wasn't like other robberies where there's loads of cash. It was all goodies, diamonds, gold, people's possessions that they were keeping safe in safety deposit boxes, which means you had to know a lot of people in the grapevine to melt that stuff, to seal it on. It wasn't like cash, because it's self-explanatory what you do with cash, you just spend it. So they managed to get out, and now, in their minds, they're the greatest thing since sliced bread. They are the criminal gurus of the world. They've made it. And you can't blame them for feeling that way at the time, except what did they do? They returned here to this very table and gloated about it, which is why there's footage out there of undercover police filming their conversations at this table, which I can imagine, as more pints were drunk, probably became more and more outlandish, and they were patting themselves and each other on the back. I'm not necessarily blaming them for patting each other on the back, but I am saying this was not a sensible place to do it. And when you mix it with alcohol, you can often forget how loud you're being. So in the end, they were caught because of the conversations they were having in here. And at first they all gave no comment interviews, but due to the mandatory 10-year sentence, they each pled guilty and were given around 7 years each. All because they felt it was a good idea to plan and to celebrate one of the biggest jewellery robberies in recent times in here. Each of those safety deposit boxes belonged to someone, and that would have been a family, inheritance, legacy, and allegedly a few people were ruined because of that robbery. Whether they were insured, we don't know. I don't know the details of each of these safety deposit boxes. The press were calling them Dad's Army. Other press officials have called them the Bad Dad's Army. To this day, this little corner has been kept the same. So if you do come in here and you're going to plan anything dodgy, just know that someone's already done it. They've already been caught right here. So be careful. Now, anyone that watches the footage of the undercover officers will notice that this bar was in view and they were sat there. And a nice little unique quirk that this pub has, come over here, because obviously this is visible in our footage, but you might not be able to read this. The Hatton Garden Heist of Easter weekend 2015 was planned here. So your plan, lads, was so secretive that it's even got a blue plaque.